Yo, so guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to MrBallen, and the video is top 3 photos of disturbing backstories. Part 1. I've recently reacted to part 22 or part 15. This is a very there's a lot of parts to this series, and the one that I saw previously was crazy. I mean, one of the photos was literally someone sitting on a train track, which was kind of brutal, but before he gets hit by a bloody train. Another was someone whose jaw fell off, not jaws. Someone whose jaw fell off from pretty much taking, what is it, nuclear drugs. And one was, what was the other one? I can't remember, but yeah, it was a crazy video. And when I found out this is a very long series, I thought to myself, I want to react to all of these because based off that one alone, I know it's going to be crazy. And I know of this thumbnail, I've seen that picture before. I've seen it in YouTube compilations. Or like videos of like disasters, or photos before disasters. But I don't know what happened. So I mean, we're going to learn. We're going to see in this video. Hopefully you're going to enjoy as much as you can. Probably a bit of a dark one, so not for everyone, but we're going to get into this anyway. Links are in the description to my Instagram, my Twitter, same for my Patreon, for those who want to see extra videos, or for those who want to follow me. But we're just going to get into this, man. Links are in the description to his channel as well, because this guy, man, his videos are elite. His storytelling ability is something else. So I mean, if you haven't already, which I'm sure you have, check him out in the description, subscribe to him and all that, because he goddamn deserves it.
Today, I'm going to share with you 3 progressively more horrifying true stories, and at the end of each of them, I'm going to share with you the picture that is famously associated with them. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all I do, and I upload 3, 4, even 5 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, then please remove 1 puzzle piece from all of the like button's puzzles. Also subscribe to my channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of my weekly uploads. Alright, let's get into today's stories.
How long has this been his intro for as well? Because it's iconic as hell, man. I wonder how long it's been going for. Also, I want to see...
1909, Loana
I'm going to get into this. This is just for my own sort of interest. YouTube, MrBallen. I want to see what his first ever video was. What? He's been doing YouTube for a year. Holy shit.
Clearly.
Bruh, he is going up then. Jeez, he's got 4.87 million in a year. You know what? Fair play. I did not realise that. He has boomed. And I understand why. Again, his storytelling ability is crazy. Unless he started before, but he did other styles of content. Shorts. Bruh, he's doing bits, man. I love to see it, man. I love to see it. He's an elite YouTuber, so I'm happy to see that.
Constantinescu was a 27-year-old woman living in the Romanian city of
I knew it was Romania.
Timisoara.
Why is this the city that my girlfriend's from? Wait, what? Wait, what?
In 1909, Loana Constantinescu was a
I'm gonna ask my girlfriend about this after. Holy shit! So he's not pronounced it very right, but to be honest, I can't say it right, and my girlfriend's from there. God damn.
Woman living in the Romanian city of Timisoara. Loana was a devout practitioner of Zoroastrianism, which is one of the world's oldest organized religions that began in ancient Persia and is now practiced primarily in East Asia. In the city that Loana was living in, it was majority Christian, and they looked at Zoroastrians as witches. As such, Loana was persecuted and ostracized primarily by these 2 Christian ministers that spread a rumor that she was drinking the blood of local children and that she worshipped Satan. That rumor would spread and grow to the point where everybody knew Loana as like the singular witch of all the Zoroastrians in the city, and it ultimately incited this angry Christian mob to storm her house on October 21st, 1909, and rip her into the streets and savagely beat her to within an inch of her life. She would survive this lynching, and she would be taken to a hospital where she'd be treated for severe blunt force injuries and lacerations. But after 2 days of being in the hospital, when she had not made a full recovery at all, she checked herself out and headed home. The next day, Loana was found dead in her apartment, and her family and friends initially believed that she had died as a result of the injuries she had sustained from the angry mob, and that perhaps she had checked herself out of the hospital too soon, and untreated, that's why she must have passed away early. But when the authorities arrived at her house and began looking at the scene, it did not look like she had died as a result of those injuries. It looked more like some sort of ritual suicide. She was laying on this sofa with her arms over her chest. Next to the sofa was an altar that was adorned with strange occult symbols and ritual herbs and effigies.
Star or whatever.
And on the altar was this goblet with deep, dark red stains on the inside. When they looked at Loana, even though she was fully dressed, underneath her sleeves were all these cuts on her arms, and there were cuts on her legs as well. After her autopsy, the medical examiner said she had died from a combination of blood loss and internal shock from ingesting massive quantities of blood that triggered cardiac arrest.
Whoa, what?
Her own blood into the sacramental goblet, drinking it.
That is flipping disgusting. This is a question. I mean, obviously, it shows what happens when you drink your own blood. You have a cardiac arrest in this scenario. But, like, say you are draining your blood and you're drinking it. Does your body absorb any of it? I mean, it must do some, but... Oh, that is flipping disgusting, man.
And then doing it over and over again until she died. Locals believed that that was not just a ritual suicide, but rather she was placing a curse on her enemies. Almost immediately following her death, those two Christian ministers that had spread those rumors about her that led to the mob coming and attacking her, they both died of an extremely rare blood-borne illness. And then immediately following their demise, the two primary vigilantes that actually organized that mob that would attack Loana, they both died. One was hit by a falling tree and another died in a fire. And according to more recent accounts, Loana's curse didn't end with the death of her tormentors. There have been dozens of reports of people after seeing this image, which is of Loana after she was discovered by authorities in her home, that they will have bouts of extreme sleep paralysis. These are people that have never had sleep paralysis before, that this picture somehow induces sleep paralysis in them, like they're cursed by Loana. And so now that you've seen this image, you're cursed too. So,
and I get sleep paralysis as well, sometimes, very rarely, but I do get it. And when I think about it, that's when I get it. I was going to be on my mind all night and I'm going to get it. Oh, end it all, for God's sake.
You're welcome.
Fuck you. Oh, no, I'm not excited for that.
In 1876, Blanche Monnier was a beautiful 25-year-old from a very wealthy, prominent family in Paris who desperately wanted to find a husband and move out of her mother's home and start her own life. The man she would fall in love with was not a young, rich aristocrat like her family was hoping, but instead was an older, poor lawyer. Her mother told her that she needed to break off this relationship and find a more suitable suitor.
She wants the one that she loves.
Refused and said she was in love with this man. When her mother outright forbid her from seeing this man ever again, she refused and began sneaking out at night to spend time with this guy and was away from him quite a bit, just kind of escaping her.
Especially in these times, I do actually rate that a lot because, again, it's the same nowadays. Like you're always the majority of people are going to just want to be with someone who they're more comfortable financially with. But in these times, your family sort of profile, and if you're from a rich family, they'd want you to be with someone from a rich family. So I do like that. Or someone who's successful, whatever it is. I do like that a lot. Successful in terms of money. That obviously isn't the only way of judging success, but obviously in these days that's how it was. So.
But during this tumultuous time where Blanche is very much at odds with her mother, Blanche would unexpectedly die. And since this is the late 1800s, people did that at a young age. They just unexpectedly died. And so her lover and her family and society mourned her loss, but ultimately time went on and people moved on. 25 years later, in 1901, French police received this strange handwritten letter that just basically states that the Monnier family has a very dirty secret, and you should go check their estate out. Now, the Monnier family was in excellent standing in Paris. I mean, they were one of the more prominent families. The mother, she was known for her charitable works. They were just one of those families that everybody knew, including certainly the French police. And so when they got this letter, they weren't actually that concerned that there was any truth to this letter. but they felt like it was their duty to at least go knock on the Monnier family's door, show them the letter, and then just take a look around. And so they did that. They showed up. They showed the Monnier family, including her mother, who was at the door, hey, we have this letter. Would you mind if we looked around? The Monnier family was very cooperative. They let them walk around their whole big estate, and the police didn't find anything. As they're chatting in the doorway, getting ready to leave, because this is all just a big misunderstanding, one of the officers turns and looks up a little flight of stairs that they hadn't gone up and notices a small door that's been padlocked shut, and it's the only door at the end of this one stairwell. And he says off the cuff to the family, well, what's in that door up there? And Blanche's mother says, oh, that's a supply closet. You know, our assistants come in and they'll go in there and use that. And the French police officers say, well, would you mind if we just poked our heads in? It's the only space we haven't checked. And since we're already here, we'll just check that box. We'll go in there and poke our heads in. And at this point, the Monnier family says, no, we're not going to let you go in there because you don't need to. It's just a supply closet. Now the police say, you're going to go ahead and open up that door. At which point the family says, no, we're not. So one of the officers tells the family to stay right here, while the other officer goes up the stairs to try to break open this lock and see what's in there. As soon as he's right outside the door, he's hit with this overwhelmingly disgusting smell. It smells like rotting flesh. It smells like death. He covers his mouth and he breaks open the lock and he opens the door, and there in the middle of this dark, disgusting smelling room on a rotting straw mattress is none other than Blanche Monnier. 25 years later, she is alive.
Oh my god! Holy shit!
Barely weighs 55 pounds, and she's chained to a bed. She has not come out of those chains or moved off of that bed in 25 years.
What?
The smell was so bad that could barely be in there for...
Oh, that poor girl, man. That is absolutely horrifying.
Longer than a few minutes at a time. But one of the officers immediately goes over and knocks down some of the wood that was blocking up the windows, and sunlight pours into the room, and it's the first time Blanche Monnier is seeing sunlight in 25 years. The reason she had been imprisoned in this room is because 25 years earlier, when she was fighting with her mother about not seeing this poor commoner, and she wasn't willing to break off the relationship with him, her mother told her to go in this room and said, you can't come out until you tell me you're going to break it off with this guy. She was so in love with him that she said no. Her mother wouldn't let her leave.
That is so sad.
Months, turned into years, turned into decades, and here we are 25 years later, and she had never left that room. The mother and the brother of Blanche Monnier were arrested, and the public found out about this, and it incited a huge mob that went to their house. And it actually caused Blanche Monnier's mother to have a heart attack, and she would end up dying only a couple of days later.
Don't wish that upon anyone, but I tell you what, if anyone's deserving of that, it's her. God damn, that is horrible. Imagine doing that to your own daughter. 20 years, 25 years.
So she never had to serve any jail time or really answer to any of her crimes. And the brother was complicit in what was happening to Blanche Monnier, but he kind of weaseled his way out of it. As for Blanche Monnier, she was remarkably lucid when she came out of that room. And she commented on how lovely it was to breathe fresh air and to be in sunlight. She was brought to a hospital where she did make a recovery, but she was so screwed up from being in that room that she didn't really know how to function in society anymore. And so she was moved to a mental institution.
I'm sorry for pausing again, but imagine being locked, like today, nowadays. So someone gets locked up. Say someone was locked up in 1995 and they come out just about now. Imagine how crazy that would be to you. Like, you're 20 years old when you first locked up, you're now 45, 50 when you come out, and everything is just so different. Imagine what that would do to someone.
And unfortunately, she died about 10 years later.
Flipping hell. Reluctant Cannibals.
On October 13th, 1972, Uruguayan Flight 571 was flying from Uruguay to Chile for a rugby game. On board were 45 people. There was 5 pilots and crew. The other 40 were the rugby team and their friends and relatives. So they take off and they're making their way to Chile, and the pilot was relative.
See, I've seen this one, so I'm thinking, because I do know about this flight. I've literally done a reaction video to this specific flight. I might just react to another one. I'm sure it's still really interesting to what he says. And if you are intrigued to see it, honestly, just click the link in the description to the video. You'll find it if you want to see it yourself. I'm just going to react to this one. Just react to 2 in one video. Why not? Why the hell not, man?
Today, I'm going to tell you 3 progressively more horror then you've come to the right channel. Interest to you, then patience, so you don't miss. On March 20th, 1980, significant volcanic activity began to occur all over Mount St. Helens in Washington state. The north face of the mountain had begun to visibly shake, and then by March 27th, there was steam coming out of the craters and vents all over the north side of the mountain. That April, scientists began to notice that there was this massive bulge that was growing on the north side of this mountain that was about 1 mile in diameter, and every day it was growing about 6 feet farther and farther up the mountain. And it was basically this massive undercurrent of magma that was going towards the top of the mountain, getting ready to explode. Initially, there was some speculation that perhaps this magma bulge is not nearly as big of a deal as people are making it out to be, that really, at worst, it could be a small eruption and it would have no impact on the surrounding areas. But authorities became skittish and were worried that they could just be caught with their pants down if this turned into a full-blown volcanic eruption. So they began evacuating the area. And for the most part, everybody evacuated, with the exception of a few scientists and some photographers and some really hardcore people that did not want to leave their homes. One of those people
didn't want to leave
was Robert Landsberg, who was a photographer.
Who lived
and
there?
On May 18th, 1980, he was out hiking about 7 miles away from the summit of Mount St. Helens, and he was making his way up to try to find a good viewpoint of that north face. He wanted to look at that magma surge that was making its way up on the north side of the mountain. And so finally he makes his way up and he gets to a great spot and he starts taking pictures of that north face. While Robert is taking pictures of that side of the mountain, a 5.2 magnitude earthquake struck the area, causing that entire north face of Mount St. Helens to be sheared off and begin falling down the side of the mountain. It's this massive landslide. It's one of the biggest that's ever been recorded in that area. But what it really did is all of a sudden that entire magma surge that had been building up underneath on the north side, making its way up, suddenly is uncovered, and it causes this massive volcanic explosion shooting 15 miles straight up into the air. Along with this massive vertical blast, there was a simultaneous lateral blast basically pointed directly at Robert, and it sent these molten debris surging down the mountainside at 100 miles an hour or faster. Robert knew he had no hope of escaping this wall of magma and ash coming straight at him. So he decides, instead of trying to save myself, I'm going to take as many pictures as I can of this volcanic eruption, and then I'm going to try to protect the film. And so Robert took as many pictures as he could of this massive volcanic wall of death coming towards him until the very last second when he puts his camera into his bag, he puts that into his backpack, and then he holds it against his chest and lays down on the ground using his body as the last protective measure to try to save this film for posterity. 17 days later, they find Robert Landsberg's body, and sure enough, he was able to protect his film by laying on top of it. And so they developed the pictures that he took, and they're incredible. Here are the final pictures that Robert Landsberg took before he was killed by the volcano.
Oh no. Flipping hell. Shout out to him then.
On September 21st, 2014, Darsh Patel, who was a 22-year-old college student, was out hiking in a New Jersey state park along with 5 of his college buddies. As they were about to head down a particular trail that they had actually gone to this park to go down, a man and woman come charging up the path towards them. And so Darsh and his friends stop, and they're looking at these 2 people who look totally distraught and scared. And the man and woman immediately say, "Hey, don't go down this path. We were just down there, and for the past 10 minutes, a black bear has been stalking us in the tree line. We don't know where it went, but we got up here, we turned around, and it was gone, but we would not suggest going down this path. It's just not worth it." Darsh and his friends tell the couple, "Thank you for giving us the heads up. We were actually going to go down that path, and so I guess now we won't." And so the couple, they quickly leave, and Darsh and his friends are sitting there thinking, well, now what do we do? Because this was the trail we were going to go down. This is why we're here. As they're standing there, they start talking about, well, maybe we just go down anyways. There's 6 of us. I highly doubt that a bear is going to come out of the woods and attack 6 people, especially a black bear that is not known to attack people. Why don't we just walk down a ways, and if we see the bear, then we just turn around and leave. And if we see the bear, might make some good pictures. Let's just go down there and see what happens. And they start walking. And sure enough, about 10 minutes into their trip down this trail, they see this massive bear parked right in the center of the trail about 250 meters away from where they were. The bear did not appear to be doing anything. It was just sitting there, but it was clearly looking at the group of them. So Darsh and his friends are just standing there, not really sure what to do, so they start taking pictures and videos. They're not moving any closer, but they just start documenting what they're seeing because this bear was apparently stalking this couple. It was pretty interesting, and they figured, hey, make some good pictures. So they start taking pictures and taking some videos of this animal.
Big mistake.
And the animal starts walking towards them. Now, it's 250 meters away. They recognize that this is a dangerous animal, and we don't want to get too close to it, but they felt relatively safe. Even if it started moving towards them initially, they still felt safe. But the animal starts jogging towards them. At this point, the boys put their phones away, turn around, and they start hightailing it the other way. And somebody looks back and notices the bear is now sprinting at them. This causes the group to completely panic. They start sprinting back towards where their cars were parked. Absolute full panic back up the trail. No one's paying attention to anybody else. They're just running for their lives. And as they're turning their heads to look, the bear is gaining on them and gaining on them. Finally, after about 10 minutes of just running for their lives, they make it to the parking lot and they turn around. There's no bear, but there's short one hiker.
Oh,
Darsh
no.
is still in the forest somewhere. The group starts screaming for Darsh. They know there was this aggressive bear in there chasing them, so they're obviously worried about him potentially getting attacked, and so they immediately call 911. The police show up and park rangers show up, and they go into the forest to try to find this bear and to find Darsh. And very quickly they come across this bear in a clearing, this 300-pound bear all by itself, aggressively pacing around this lump in the middle of this clearing that had sticks and branches on it. It wasn't clear what it was, and this bear is just pacing in a circle around this thing. And as these two park rangers get closer, they're armed. The bear looks at them and makes a move like it's going to charge, and they elect to shoot and kill this bear. Later, the bear's remains would be taken to a laboratory, and inside of the bear's stomach was Darsh Patel.
Oh, mate.
This bear,
Why
and
you
that
just...
lump that was...
Curiosity killed the cat, but this is a whole other level. Curiosity killed the human. Bro, just listen to what the people said before. I don't know why. Like, if I hear that, I'm gone, man. Or I'm not going that specific way. God, America is different, man. You just get bears in random forests or random woods or whatever that could just come out and attack you at any point.
On the ground that the bear was circling was whatever was left of Darsh that had not been consumed yet. When they recovered Darsh Patel's phone, they went into his images and they found he had taken one final picture before he was attacked. Here it is. The bear was not malnourished, it was not diseased, it just decided it wanted to stalk, kill, and eat a human.
Jeez! Oh, that is so eerie.
Vladimir Komarov was a Soviet astronaut who in 1967 was scheduled to orbit the Earth in the first manned flight of a particular Soviet spacecraft called the Soyuz. Komarov would be flying this mission solo, and so he needed a backup in case for some reason he couldn't go. And his backup was Yuri Gagarin, who was actually Komarov's best friend. This mission was very important to the Soviet Union, more from a political standpoint, but nonetheless, the pressure was on Komarov to successfully complete this mission. And so he, along with his backup, Yuri, had to train extra hard and make sure they did not screw this up. But it turns out the fail point for this mission was almost certainly not going to be Komarov or Gagarin if he ended up going instead of Komarov. It was going to be the spaceship itself. Gagarin, along with a host of engineers, did a full-blown inspection of the Soyuz and found 203 significant structural problems, and they all recommended postponement of this mission. But their recommendation was ignored because, again, this mission was so politically important to the Soviet Union that they were effectively ready to risk their astronauts to make it happen. When Komarov found out about all these structural issues and the fact that the powers that be were not even listening and were basically saying, we don't care, you're doing this mission anyways, he was crushed, and he told a KGB agent that he was certain he was going to die. And this KGB agent would later say that he asked Komarov, well then why don't you refuse the mission? And Komarov said, if I refuse the mission, they're going to make my best friend go, and he'll die up there, so I have to go. Gagarin pleaded with Komarov to relinquish the role, let Gagarin go instead of him, but Komarov was staunch. He said, I've been given this mission, I'm going to go, you're going to stay here. But what Komarov did, which is so legendary, is he made sure his funeral, if he were to die in the course of this mission, would be open casket. Because he knew if he came back to Earth, it was probably going to be because this spaceship has crashed, and he wanted the Soviet leadership to see what they had done. So sure enough, Komarov gets in the Soyuz on launch day, he takes off, and the problems began almost immediately. They had very little power, they had limited communications with the ground, and the craft itself was spinning uncontrollably. Seeing how badly it was going already, Soviet leadership on the ground instructed Komarov to nix the mission and just try to come back to Earth. For 5 hours, Komarov circled Earth and attempted to re-enter Earth's atmosphere, but his ship, because of all of those structural problems, didn't work. And so 18 times he attempts to re-enter Earth's atmosphere, but each time it fails. And it was around this time that American intelligence recorded a conversation between a high-ranking Soviet leader on the ground and Komarov. And the leader on the ground is basically crying and saying they're so sorry to Komarov and that he's going to be a hero. They got his wife to come on, and his wife is talking to Komarov, and Komarov's telling her, you know, what to do with the kids, what to do with his estate.
Jeez.
He's perfectly fine and healthy, but the craft is doomed, and everybody knows it. Then that call ends, and Komarov, on his 19th attempt, is able to re-enter Earth's atmosphere, which everyone was pretty surprised he could even do that, but his parachutes failed. As Komarov is plunging to his death, over the radio, he's cursing the Soviet leadership that doomed him by putting him in a botched spaceship. And so sure enough, on April 24th, around 7 a.m., Komarov's craft smashes into the ground, killing Komarov. And when they open it up, it's clear what happened to him. He didn't die on impact. He basically burned alive inside of this capsule as it was careening down towards the Earth. And so all that's left of him is this charred pile. But because Komarov explicitly stated that they had to have an open casket funeral, specifically because he wanted the Soviet leadership to see what they had done to him, they had to hold an open casket funeral with just these charred remains. And here is the famous picture of Komarov's funeral, where the actual Soviet leaders that put him in that spaceship that was doomed, here they are viewing his open casket funeral. So that's going to do it, guys. Let me know in the comments what you thought of these 3 stories, and I will get back to all the early commenters. Plus, I will pin the...
I don't want to look at that again, obviously, but flipping hell.
Sell your house and move into the top floor of a high-rise apartment building with a non-functional elevator, and then ask the like button to help you move in. Also, please subscribe to my channel.
Mate! Ah, bro, that one was brutal as hell. Komarov was the real deal, refusing to sentence his best friend to death and making damn sure the higher-ups saw what they'd done. Yeah, man, I do respect that. I do. The story of Komarov hits me hard every time. He was so honourable for what he did for humanity, his own country and his best friend. I wish the world had more of his rare breed of our namesake. Yeah, man. If we had more people like that in this world, we'd be a whole load better off. So Komarov basically saved his best friend's life, who later went on to be the first man in space. Really? Oh, jeez. Never run from a bear. The bear jogging towards them was a test to see if they were food or not. They all rang the dinner bell. But to be fair, running is your best option as long as you're not the slowest person in the group. I'd be alright at that, to be fair. Or you got good stamina. Flipping hell, though, man. I guess, yeah, 6 of them could have stood their ground and scared them, but at the same time, in the moment, who knows how you'd react. But yeah, man, shout out MrBallen. 2 really good videos, like usual. Didn't expect anything less, but yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this. If you want more of these reactions, suggest it in the comments and I'll be sure to do so. But yeah, till next time, like, subscribe.